Here, have some coffee. Tibbets held out a plastic cup. Brennan shook his head, slow, wobbly shakes that seemed to take forever. I don't drink coffee. Drink this anyway, Tibbets said. It'll take the shock away. A Murphy drip, Holmesley said, looking at Tibbets, who nodded. Brennan took a sip. It tasted like oil drained from a car, sludge. What's a Murphy drip? We were both medics in Nam, Holmesley said. That's where we met. A Murphy drip is something medics use. But what is it? Tibbets cut in. You boil coffee down to a thick black solution. It's solid caffeine. When a man gets hit, sometimes the wound shock, will kill him even if the wound doesn't. You need a fast, raw stimulant, and when we didn't have one, we'd use the coffee. But what if they couldn't swallow? Brennan was having trouble swallowing himself. We gave it anally. That was the only way to get it into the system fast enough to do any good. Well, Holmesley said, back to the present, or the past. Finish telling us about the skull. Brennan sat forward. Whether from the coffee or just getting out of the examining room, he felt more alert. As I said, it was a boy of about 14. The teeth showed a little wear. Death was instantaneous and probably happened between 1865 and 1890. I'd lean toward 1880 or so. You can tell all that from the skull? Brennan was amazed. Tibbets shook his head. No, there's other knowledge involved, and I'm guessing a bit now. He thought for a moment. It's a good bet that he was killed by soldiers. They used large-bore rifles and killed Indians, and the center of Indian Apache action in the canyon area was about 1880. It's just a guess. He looked at Brennan. You didn't say specifically where you found the skull, just in the canyons up by Alamogordo. Is it a secret? Brennan shook his head. Not from you. It was near Dog Canyon, a canyon south of it, or maybe two. I don't know the name of it. All of those canyons are on national forest land, Holmesley said. It probably goes without saying, but you're not supposed to take things away. I have to get back to work. Tibbets stood. I have a suggestion if you want some help. Brennan nodded. I sure do. You still know almost nothing about the skull, or rather about the boy who was the skull. You need more information. Where do I get it? You could ask the Apaches up at White Mountain Reservation above Alamogordo. They might be able to help. I can't get up there, Brennan said. I have to work. Or you can contact the other side, the Army, Tibbets suggested. Holmesley stood up. Better yet, I have a friend who works in Denver in the Western Historical Archives. We'll write to him and ask him for any information he might be able to get us. Tibbets stopped with his hand on the knob to the examining room door. Ask him for all military reports, especially after action reports for the time between 1875 and 1885. He nodded to them and went back to the body on the table before Brennan could thank him. Holmesley pointed to the exit. Should we go do the letters? Brennan followed him out, but stopped in the parking lot near the car. Holmesley turned and looked at him over the top of the car. What's the matter? Brennan hesitated. Well, I don't want to seem ungrateful, but what? Do you think that if I paid for it we could call your friend in Denver? It'll take days and days to send and wait for letters. Holmesley shrugged. Sure, why not? Let's go. And Brennan had one fleeting thought as he got in the car. Why did my mother meet this man and have me, and he would be my father? And he shook his head and sat back in the hot seat as they drove across El Paso. It was easily the longest week in his life. He worked hard with Stoney all week and called Holmesley every night, and when he learned nothing he ran each night until he was tired and fell into bed and slept hammered into the pillow. There were no dreams. It takes some time to find all the stuff we asked for, Holmesley said the first time he called. Be patient. It was easy to say, but very hard to do. The skull was in his closet, in the box, waiting. He couldn't shake the feeling that it waited, sat in the box and waited for... He didn't know. But the pressure was there, tremendous pressure, and just when it seemed he would explode, Holmesley called. It's here. I'll be right over. It's 9 o'clock in the evening and there are several boxes. I don't care. I'll tell Mom I'm staying over. If it's all right, I mean. Of course it is. Holmesley didn't hesitate. We'll put you on the couch in the music room." Brennan cleared it with his mother and was gone out the door almost before she nodded. When he arrived at Holmesley's, he was sucking wind, his chest heaving. "You must have run hard all the way," Holmesley said, watching him try to catch his breath. "Are you all right?" Brennan nodded. "Where's the stuff from the archives?" he gasped. "In the music room." There were 7 boxes, each about a cubic foot in size. Brennan picked up one of the boxes, put it down, picked up another. He didn't know where to start. He picked up another one and tore the top open. Inside were photocopies of papers, hundreds of sheets laid sideways in manila folders. He pushed back the corner of one folder. 1881, he said aloud. He's dated each one. The work he's done, it's incredible. Like I said, Holmesley sighed, he's a friend. He must be a very good friend. The best. Vietnam? Holmesley nodded silently. Were you all friends that way? Another nod. Those of us who made it. He turned away and picked up another box. He has them in order, see? There's a number on the side of each box. Also, there's a letter. He opened a manila envelope and read aloud. The boxes are in order by dates. They start in 1875 and end in 1895. Inside each box, the papers are also by date. There are Army reports and letters and newspaper clippings. He goes on about some private stuff here. Then he says he isn't sure what we want, but he thinks there might be something for us in the box marked number 3. Brennan picked up the number 3 box and sat on the couch, opened it. 1884, he read from the first folder. He pulled out some papers that proved to be copies of old newspapers. Even as copies, it was easy to tell that the original paper had been old. The newsprint was uneven, and the headlines almost screamed. More raids by Apaches, Brennan read aloud. Livestock stolen, settlers frightened, Army increases patrols. Got into their headlines, didn't they, Holmesley said. They didn't need to write the story after that. Brennan read the story. It said that there had been several raids in the area south and west of El Paso, that great damage has been caused. He finished the article. It's so weird to read this. It's like it just happened yesterday or something. Holmesley set the boxes on the coffee table in front of the couch. It's going to take days to go through all this, and we really don't even know what we're looking for, do we? Brennan shook his head. Not really, but I'll know when I find it, I think. He sat back on the couch with the box in his lap and started with the first folder. In moments he was lost in the papers. He did not see Holmesley leave, did not see Holmesley come back with a plate of chocolate chip cookies and a glass of milk, did not see Holmesley put them on the table next to the boxes, did not see Holmesley leave. Brennan knew nothing but the papers and the world they showed. Dust and heat. The newspapers spoke of patrols and raids and heat and dust. Long patrols the Army made when the soldiers had to cut the veins on their horses and drink the blood. Dust and sand so thick they had to cover their mouths with bandanas just to breathe. Brennan started with the newspaper articles and stories in the first box. They were all poorly written, redundant. They would often say the same thing several times. 20 soldiers attacked a marauding band of Apaches in a running battle, a story said. No soldiers were injured, though several Apaches were seen to have been hit. And later in the same story, a roaming patrol of 20 soldiers attacked a band of wild Apaches. After a brisk exchange of fire, several Indians were hit, though no soldiers received wounds. He put the article aside without looking up, without seeing the cookies or milk, took another story. He opened the other boxes and scanned the articles in those as well. But he could not forget the comment about box number 3 and how it might have something for him. They had told Holmesley's friend, he was named Ted Ranger, only that they desired information about the canyon area north of Fort Bliss and any actions that took place there between 1875 and 1890 or so. The third box concerned El Paso and Fort Bliss and the canyons, but it took some time to go through the other boxes to make sure. He looked up, saw that the wall clock said 1 in the morning, and knew he should try to sleep, but he could not stop reading. He started into the general papers in the third box. They were mostly action reports with a fair number of letters. Brennan put down the folder, holding the orders, and visualized what he had just read. The words were so dry, concise, but they meant so much. Horses running, men shooting at other men, men trying to kill other men, a horse hit going down, everybody yelling, the Indians riding out of the arroyo and the soldiers firing at them. He took another folder out of the box, and then another, and he read until it was past 4, until his eyes burned, and his brain was so full of words, of reports and more reports, that he fairly reeled with them, read until he was on the edge of something like sleep. And then he found it.